Hello.
Hi, Georgina, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm so fine. I'm good, thank you.
It's fantastic to see you and to meet you.
I'm also so happy to finally meet this wonderful woman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
all right. Hello, Mzansi. We are back again with the second episode of the Umzali Show, and where parenting meets purpose, healing, and heart. I'm your host, Maddam D, and today we are diving into deeply important conversations called parenting after emotional trauma. And today, our guest is someone whose work is not only transformational but rooted in lived experience, and she's a marriage and trauma consultant, a writer, a speaker, educator, and of the founder of the Restoration Lab,
Thank you.
healing a healing space that's been helping individuals and families write their stories and with power and purpose.
Yes.
So today we are getting to know Georgina. Who is Georgina? Where does she come from? And all of that. We're gonna go deep into that to get to know who Georgina.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes. Before we get into incredible work, let's start from the beginning, guys. Georgina, where are you
Yes.
from? And what was your childhood like growing up?
I am from Cape Town, born and
Mm.
raised. I came to Johannesburg, I think I was 26. That was back in the day,
Mm.
2002. Can you believe it?
Yeah. I know. I
Yes.
believe it. It's
I
been so
so
long. Mm.
It is a long time ago. I'm from Cape Town, born and raised there. I come from, I wouldn't say a close family, but I come from a community, I would say, that was close knit. You know how you can be close in communities but not healthy. So it was not a healthy family that I come from. I experienced a lot of dysfunction. And now I understand the background of my family better because I've been on my own healing journey, and what I took as
Mm-hmm.
normal, I realized wasn't normal at all.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of work that I had to do, and I believe that every family has that one person that's going to be a black sheep,
Yes,
and that's the
it's
person that's
true.
going to break generational curses,
Curses. Yes.
because everybody that is approved of and comfortable means that you are part of the system. So
Mm-hmm.
when you are born and you rebel against the system, you know that there is a new page coming with somebody. You're going to unsettle a lot of established norms within your family dynamics.
Yes.
So I come from such a family that there was a lot of emotional, psychological, and mental abuse, and which is not, I think, abnormal for most of our families.
Mm-hmm.
There was childhood molestation, and all of those things that I then had to work on, if believe it or not, in my 40s, because there were things that were just sitting there, and you don't know what to do with them. Some of them you don't remember them; they come back as a memory as you heal.
Yeah, but look at you now. Wow.
Look at me now. That we can give credit to doing inner work,
Yes,
healing childhood
that's true.
wounds,
Mm.
questioning our lives, where we are, why we made the decisions that we made, because they are all rooted.
Mm.
I can comfortably say that 99% of our adults' decisions are rooted on what happened to us in our
Yes,
childhood that we didn't consciously address.
that's true. And it sometimes even affects our parenting to our kids.
Absolutely, which
Mm.
is exactly what we're going to sort of delve into with your
Yes,
conversation today.
yes. So I would like to know, which school did you attend and what were some of the things you were passionate about in your younger years?
Oh goodness. I attended um, Good Hope Primary School, and then I was at for my high school. I went to two high schools, no, three.
Yes.
There was, like I said, there was a lot of moving around, a lot of dysfunction. Most of my childhood was divided. A part of my childhood was with my grandmother, who, God rest her soul, I think planted the seed of what love is in my life. Because after her passing,
Wonderful.
when I was 13, I think I clung on to the memory of her subconsciously. And that's what made me become the person that I am, to say that this is not okay,
Mm.
you know. But after 13, I moved back to live with my mother, and that was where the challenges started, because I think my mother was very broken, and most of the abuse happened under her.
And now you had to experience the broken mom.
Yes,
Hey, it was a lot, yes,
yes,
no.
yes.
Brutally.
So,
Mm.
that was my childhood and my schooling. So I think, when you have had a very traumatic past, because my past is full of physical abuse, because the way we were beaten was not was not like you are giving a child a spanking.
Yes, it
Somebody
was
would
like
beat you like
abuse.
they want to kill you. There
Hmm.
was a lot of that almost on a daily basis. Hello.
Mm.
And almost on a daily basis, and the mental abuse, that you are never good enough, that that you are not wanted, that you are not loved, and always thinking about how to escape, which
Mm.
is how then we learn to live in survival mode.
Yes,
You
that's
have
true.
to minimize yourself. I didn't have an opportunity to do, for example, things like having a passion. I remember when I was young, I loved dancing, and when I hear my older extended family members, I hear that I was a very extroverted child. I was the child that that would go on the coffee table when it's everybody's home from work after dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and I would entertain the family. I have no memory of that. Um, I was the dancer, the actor, and all of these things. And I suppose there were things that I knew in my heart, because there were the things that I wished that I could become involved in at school,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't, because my life was almost like a parent in the home. I was the one that was responsible for making sure the home is kept, go to school, get back home, and make sure the cooking is done for the family, take care of my brothers who were all younger than me. I'm a firstborn. My mother was really never there to parent, you know. So that was my life. I didn't have the time to entertain being a child.
So basically,
So
you had to grow up fast and be a parent.
absolutely, absolutely. So that was my life. In fact, by the time I finished matric, I was working and going to school and bringing the whole money home to feed the family. Um, yeah. So, and I believe many children and many of us go through this history, but it doesn't make it normal. No matter how many of us
Yes,
go through it, it's why we are, most of us, wounded. Yes.
yes, that's
So
true.
I don't really have. I never understood why I never had memories of my childhood. And that is a trauma thing, where your brain develops a way to cope with situations. And when I say to you, some of the incidents of sexual molestation in my childhood, I forgot. It's because of that. The brain will try to preserve you,
Mm-hmm.
so it will store some things, and
Some
it will be
things it
like, oh,
will
they never
store.
happened.
Yeah.
Yes. So when they come back in funny times. Maybe you are talking about something and somebody refers to an incident, and you think, oh my God, that
Mm.
happened to me. Or the first time I remembered a sexual assault incident, um, I was pregnant with my first daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sleeping. I was about 8 months pregnant, and it came in a dream. But I woke up crying, because I knew in the dream that this was real. It wasn't a dream. And then I woke up and I remembered.
That you
So
are.
that
Oh.
this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
So that explains why, I suppose, then I didn't have things. I would say I was in this team at school, or I was in the art club, or the dance
Yes.
crew. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, interesting. You know, before becoming the founder of the Restoration Lab, what were you doing professionally, and how did that experience shape you?
Okay. So leaving Cape Town was merely for looking for work opportunities because I didn't have a family that could support me through university
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have funding. So I had to work after high school. I went for a very short term to UCT,
Mm.
and because of funding, I had to stop. And then I got work, and through work, that's how I got my education. Because
Okay.
then I studied education, training, and development
Mm-hmm.
through the ETDP CETA. So I became a learning and development practitioner, something that was, I suppose, natural to me because the one thing that became very clear in my job was that I was always coaching and teaching people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the job. And so I guess the my managers at the time recognized that talent, that I had this ability of teaching.
Mm.
And then I went into the training department, and that's where I got my education. They put me through schooling, and I became a qualified learning and development specialist.
Mm.
So that then involved me not only doing the facilitation, assessment, and moderation of learners. It was also then where I got to be able to create learning institutions. So, for example, let's say a company wants to have an accredited learning department,
Yes.
then I was the one that would put those departments together to be accredited. So, in terms of quality assurance, policies in place, putting together curriculums,
Mm-hmm.
developing learning material. So, that was one part. Then I got married, and that job had a lot of traveling because at some point I resigned and I started my own consultancy. So
Mm-hmm.
my clients were all over. Everybody at the time, because CETA was funding a lot of companies to actually do the training. Because a lot of us South Africans, that's another thing, and which I'm sad about, that that training is not funded as much as it was, or is not pushed as much as it was, is that it gave a lot of us who didn't have the finances an opportunity to gain qualifications
Mm.
because the accreditation was at the same level as that you get at university. So whatever you learn in the workplace, maybe let's say that you want to study something in psychology, you could do your first and second year within the workplace, and then you take those credits to a university and do your third year there and finish
Okay.
off. So
Mm.
it was a really wonderful system that was put in place for the majority of South Africans that can't make it to university but
Mm.
need to go to work or was forced to be a breadwinners early and didn't have an opportunity to study.
Okay.
So that's what I did, and then got married, and that, because I was consulting, it had a lot of travel to do. Children came along, and then life changes.
Mm.
So at that point, then I became more of a stay-at-home mom. I went into other businesses where I have I also, I think it's got to do with the ADHD thing. Many of us are ADHD.
Yes.
Trauma makes us ADHD,
Mm.
because the trauma, ADHD is a way of you disconnecting actually from the present and focusing, hyper
On.
focusing on the things that interest you, right?
Mm.
So you know how somebody, when they start going off on you, and you kind of blank out
Blackout,
and you think about
yes.
something else,
Mm.
so that, or you become hyper fixated on something else. That is a trauma response in most cases.
And
So
you know, now
it's a
that you
coping
mention
mechanism.
it, some people don't even take that as trauma.
It
But
is,
now that you mention it, no, I know.
yeah,
I
it's
honestly don't.
absolutely a
Mm.
coping mechanism due to a
Yes.
trauma that you had to disengage yourself from.
Mm. Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
um,
Now that
and
I
then I
heard
went.
that you mentioned that you have kids. So how many kids do you have?
I have four. I have
Okay.
four. Um, my son is 26 years old,
Oh, wow.
and then my first daughter is 18, then 16, then 13. So I've got four, three girls and one boy.
All right. And how has motherhood impacted or inspired you to the work that you do today?
My children are my why.
Mm-hmm.
They are the reason why I had to face my trauma head on. Because um, when you are not conscious
Mm-hmm.
of how you parent, and if you are a conscious parent, you're going to see your children as a mirror of yourself.
That's true.
Uh, because you are going to do the things that your parents did to you, and you see it how it affects them. So you see yourself at that age through your children when you do the things that you went through.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are then present and wanting to heal, you are going to say, I need to change. I need to do better. Because I don't want to produce another human being like me.
Yes.
Because if you are unconsciously parenting, you are definitely going to be your mother or your
That's true.
father. You are going to be the abuser in your
Mm-hmm.
life. And for you to learn different means then that you can't just know. You have to know and then put the knowledge into effect, which means that the knowledge is going to change you. You are going to practice different. If I can give you an example today, because the body remembers different to what you know.
Yes.
All of your decisions are made subconsciously. So you're going to have to find out, for example, if you are somebody, everybody knows that who une anger, you know,
Mm-hmm.
yes, in anger, short tempered. There is nobody who's born short tempered.
Yes.
You are programmed into being short tempered.
Mm-hmm.
So then now you need to realize that you need to do better for your children, but part of that is you going back and figuring out, why am I like this? What made me like this? And it's going to probably be based on an experience for a period of time where you were treated like that. And some people will say, Nambe ndikhuliswe so, like they'll get over it. Joe, look at me now. But you don't recognize that you are
Yes.
toxic.
Yes. And the generation of now, they are so different than us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of information out there, and they know exactly how they shouldn't be treated, and they have so much more freedom in terms of what they do with themselves in terms of
Yes.
agency.
Mm.
So if you are not going to change, and if you're not going to be intentional in how you parent, you're going to end up with a problem. I mean, we were also problematic. It's just that we didn't have a voice. So we were more a danger to ourselves than a danger to other people.
Yes, that's true.
You know
That's
what I'm saying?
true. That's why I'm saying our generation of now, our kids, they take everything to the heart. Like it's like they are sensitive to everything that we utter, everything that is wrong or
Mm.
right that we do in front of them. They
Mm.
so take it serious.
And the thing is that we were raised in a generation whereby if an elder said this, you don't argue. So you did
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at school and with other communities that we've mixed our children with, like now they are more with the multiracial schooling
Mm-hmm.
systems. They learn other behaviors other than what you teach at home. So they learn there that other children that comes from other cultures, they are vocal. They
Mm.
speak out. Their teachers are teaching them to think critically.
Mm-hmm.
More outcomes based learning than what we had.
Yes.
They are they learn critical thinking. So you can't say, um, oh, you do it like this, or it's a no and it's final.
Mm.
They're gonna ask you why.
Yeah, obviously.
They're going to ask you why, and now you need to engage with them.
Mm.
And if you hold on to your past teaching that you got from your parents, you're not going to be able to connect with them because you want to enforce the issue that you are a parent, whereas the children is trying to find a reason. I always say, as parents, we teach our children how to think and how to solve problems if we allow them to engage with us in
Yes.
communication.
But then sometimes you get that some parents are not approachable.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
So that's
And
also a problem.
communication is a huge thing, whether you are dealing with another adult or with a child. Also, our children, and I don't understand parents who want their children to look righteous in front of them, but they don't know what the children are doing in their absence. It's almost like you are happy to know that your child behaves well in front of
Mm-hmm.
you, but you don't actually know your child. You don't know what they like. You don't know who their friends are. You don't know what they get involved in because you don't ask. You don't want to know. You don't want to deal with problems. So
That's
the child is kind of like raising themselves. So
mm.
you are not even giving guidance as to what type of friendships would be good
For
for them
them.
and why this particular friendship is not going to work well for them.
Mm.
So that for me is like sabotaging yourself as a parent, because then you're going to have a problem where you have a child that knows how to hide things from you because you haven't become a friend to that child.
Yes, yes.
You
And
know, our
that's
children.
why sometimes you will even find at school the child is becomes this naughty child.
Exactly.
You get called at school and then you become surprised that no man, that it can't be my
That
child.
can't be my
Only
child.
to find out the character changes when you
Yes.
gets to school. Yes.
Yes. At school they are more their real self,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that they reflect the person that you've groomed them to be. So, if, for example, you are somebody who is forever shouting at school, but at home,
Mm.
but your child is forever quiet, they're going to take that behavior to school,
Yes.
your behavior,
Mm.
because we model. Our children learn more from our modeling than they do from our speaking.
That's true.
So,
That's
whatever
true.
you model at home, that's what your child is going to become. That's how we became Bekezela people, for example, because we saw our mothers bekezelaing things that
Mm.
were horrible and traumatic and disrespectful.
Mm.
And then, as a grown woman, that is how you understand being a woman to be. So you will also bekezela. So that is, we model our authority figures because those are the people that we look up to.
Yes. Wrong is wrong. We can't be begging now. During this time, no.
Not in this day. I mean, it has messed up a lot of us, but we are learning. We are learning.
That's
We are
true.
learning.
No, no, you know what? So far, I'm so enjoying this conversation with you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you know, I love this. Something happened, something powerful that led you to this work, right? Yes. So you've spoken openly about your healing journey. And could you share what personal experience or life event that became the turning point of starting this work?
For me, I think I didn't know this is the work that I was going to be doing. So basically, after I got divorced 4 years
Mm,
ago, and I went on my personal healing journey, I I didn't have an identity. I didn't know who I was because marriage is forever. And
mm,
so when after you lose a marriage, it's like the death of a future
mm,
that was certain, because this is what you were investing your life in. You were with this person, you were in this situation, and you were happy with it.
mm.
You know, this is what you work, this is your life's work. And then
Yes.
suddenly that's taken away from you, and you are alone in the desert without water. I love that statement of Kanye. You know, and so because I had been a stay-at-home mom for quite a number of years.
Mm,
I would say for the last 7 years, I was a stay-at-home mom, and that's where I actually then went into the fashion and design space, and I
okay.
had a boutique. So I was doing things on the side, but it's almost like a hobby type of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
my main job was being a mother and a wife.
Okay, but
So
it seems like you are a jack of all trades. You know, you do.
that's the ADHD for you. I'm a creative person by nature, so when it
Ah,
comes to creating things, I'm quite
yes.
adept, you
Mm,
know.
mm,
So what I was getting to was my turning point was then as a wife, I felt so unsafe. And I'd been wearing this mask of Begezela for so long. It got so painful that it was damaging me psychologically. I ended up in mental hospital at some point. I became self-harming. The pain was so great that I couldn't mask it with the good wife aesthetic or costume that I had to wear anymore. And so it was the childhood trauma, it was the marriage trauma. And so when finally I said I have to let it go if I'm going to survive and be a mother to my children, and I let it go, I think it was the most excruciating and most painful thing that I've had to go through in my entire life. And I was lost. I had lost myself in the marriage, and I was further lost when I left. And I thought to myself, I would never be a normal person again, because I couldn't even remember who I was before the marriage, because I've been wearing this mask for 15 years. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
So I didn't even know what I liked. So I said to myself, I couldn't even be with another man right now. So let me sit and feel what I'm feeling and see what tomorrow will bring. I didn't have a plan. But what I knew was that I needed to figure out what happened, what went wrong. And I went to therapy for a while. And that therapy took me away from crisis point. But what going to therapy for half a year did for me was to show me that my life had not been normal. It had not been healthy. The toxicity that I took as normal, the trauma throughout my life that I took as this is how life is, my therapist showed me that that is not healthy. That is not what life should have been. That is not how a child is raised. That is not how relationships between husband and wife should be. Because one person breaks while the other person thrives.
Yes.
So it was in that moment for me when I thought, how do I get myself back? And the only thing to do that she pointed me was to go inward, to actually look at myself, look at the fact that I was struggling with depression, and how did that depression come about? And it meant going through all of the pain points that had touched my life to the point where I became this person that had lost sense of who they are. And even
so you had to go back and face your traumas of the past.
All of them, and it was messy. And that I think then when I became the person that I am, that you see today, and I hear stories. I mean, throughout my healing the last 4 years, I kept hearing stories that were like mine and even worse. And but the consistent thing that I kept hearing was women who wanted spaces to talk but were scared of going and doing the healing or making the decisions for transformation. Because let me tell you, if divorcing is hard, if trauma in childhood is hard, having to relive all of that through your healing, my God, it takes a different level of strength, because you don't just remember and you don't just identify. Your whole body feels everything as if it's happening all over again, because the body remembers everything. So you will be crying.
During the whole process, didn't it affect you as a mother having to parent your kids?
Yes, I think my children are more affected by while I was hurting in the marriage, because now, remember, even if you're not fighting in front of your children, the tension that there is, the fact that their parents don't seem to like each other. When daddy comes home, then everybody behaves. When daddy is not home, everybody's free. Or when mommy comes home and she looks a particular way. Like I had a thing of, if I come home and I see one thing out of place, like maybe the kids came home and before me from work, and I find books lying around, I didn't take the time to talk to them as to why things were in that condition. Why didn't you pick up after yourself? Why this? Why that? I didn't engage with them. I would go into a screaming mode. It would set me off. It would, my anger was uncontrollable. And so that is what happens to you. You lose the ability of being a parent, and now you parenticize the children because they are the ones now, they have to make sure that they don't upset mommy. They don't do anything that's gonna upset the balance at home between mom and dad. They are not free in their own home. So you do affect your children whether you are healing or not healing. But the good thing about you being on a healing journey is that it helps you develop your language skills. You practice your communication muscle. So when I'm not in a good place, I can speak to my kids. Today is very hard. I'm struggling. And they give me a hug. What are you struggling about, mommy? No, Nana, just something that happened that just, set me off or reminded me of unpleasant things, but I'm working through it. So now they're not guessing. They're not anxious. They're not worried about when is mommy going to go off? When is mommy going to fall into a depression? They are able to feel like they are useful, because even if I'm not sharing everything with them, they know how mommy is feeling. They know that mommy needs a cup of tea and she's okay. She needs an extra hug. And that means that when they are feeling the same, that's what I mean. Children are a mirror, because what I realize is that when my children are experiencing the same, because when we go through these processes of grieving after losing a marriage, we don't remember that the children lost a family. They're also grieving. So what I found is that the more I was open with them about my pain, not maybe the details, but my pain, they would come and open up to me about their pain when they didn't understand, when they were confused by why they miss daddy so much, but at the same time they see that life is better without him. And the guilt of missing daddy, but do I speak to mommy about it because I'm not supposed to like him because he did all those things to my mom? People don't talk about the wound of watching one parent damage another, and what that does to the child that is watching, and then having to watch the other parent go off and flourish, and the other one is left in ashes, and they either pick themselves up from the ashes or they stay there. Nobody talks about how that affects our children. Watching the people that you trust the most, that are supposed to have the world figured out, destroy each other.
Yes, yeah, we are our kids' safe spaces as parents.
And you are not safe anymore.
Yes.
You become the person that breaks your children's hearts, and you go off with life, and we handle our children almost like accessory bags. And this is what I talk about when I talk about how people just get into relationships and then marriage and not consider how that's going to affect the children, because you fall in love and you move on to the next person, and you treat your children as if they're an accessory. They're just going to manage to get into the marriage and cope with whatever is happening.
Yeah, just fit in. Yes.
For me, as a parent, my first priority is to think, is it more important for me to be happy with a man, or is it more important to help regulate my children and give them as stable a home as possible, and then make your choices from there?
Yeah, no, I think some don't even consider that.
Yeah,
it's more about their own happiness.
That's why I'm saying that we take our children as if it's a handbag. When you're ready to move, you'll take them with you and then place them there, and they'll be okay. They'll see to themselves, because they don't have the language to express what they feel.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So now tell us, how did the Restoration Lab come to life? And what made you realize that there was a need for a space like this?
For me, it was when I had made the most progress on my own healing journey, but also my biggest transformation was when I took my healing as my responsibility. Because I realized realized going to my psychologist was about regurgitating the past, talking about what happened, how am I feeling today, how am I feeling about that, what happened when, and I needed to figure out how to move forward. I needed to figure out who do I want to become in future. I don't want to feel like this broken person every day. How do I cannot exist like this for the rest of my life. So what happens? How do I move from here? And so I had to then sit and in as I was healing, start thinking about who I wanted to become. I want to be powerful. I want to be powerful. How do I become powerful? I need to figure out how to own my life. Because up to now, I've been a passive participant in my life. Other people have made decisions for me. As a child, my parents made decisions for me. As a married woman, my husband made decisions for me. And whether I liked things or not, I was always having to reshape myself to fit the situation I found myself in. And because I didn't deal with my childhood, I chose people, men in my life who were like my toxic parents, because that's what I could identify. That's what I was comfortable with. That's what I knew. I knew how to survive, how to live on survival mode. So the people that I gravitated to were people that were chaotic, because I came from chaos and I didn't know what peace is like. One of those people that think that a peaceful man is boring, you know?
Yeah.
So now you gravitate to the one that's going to give you some excitement, and that excitement is the chaos that you need, because you know how to
What
survive.
you know.
You don't know
Yes.
how to live in peace. You know how to survive,
Yes.
right? So it in my healing journey, I realized how messy healing is and how embarrassing and humiliating things that happen in the process are. Because facing yourself and knowing that about you, and some of the things that you allowed, how could you, I let myself be disrespected to that level. I didn't even see it as disrespect, in fact. But now that I know better, I'm like, how did I allow this to happen to me? How could I not love myself to this level? In fact, I had no love, because had I had any level of love, I wouldn't have allowed it. So I wanted to create a place where people who had been through what I've been through could could express their pain and their shame and humiliation without judgment, but not only express it. The most important thing is how to transition. The transformation is very important to me, because when you look at me, you come to me saying, Gina, I know your journey. When you started 4 years ago and you were like this, and now you're this person, how did you do it? I want to show you how I did it. You know, I want to show you how I dissented everybody, but particularly men.
Yes.
Because my history and my upbringing taught me that men have the answers. A man will lead you somewhere. I mean, so you don't unpack, how is that man going to lead me? How is he living his life? Um, you,
What
as
is
long as
good
he's a man,
leadership? As a
what
man,
is
what
good
is good
leadership?
leadership? Yes,
You don't
yes.
ask those questions. He's a man and he says he loves you, and he does things that look like somebody that loves you, and you accept that that's the leader. And you don't investigate this man's life. How is he leading his own life? He's good at leading you, but he can't lead himself.
So, yes.
He's good at telling you what to do, but he can't tell himself to do the right things and stick with it.
And but during that time, you can't even see it. You think this is the right leadership.
Yes, because we were watching our fathers and stepfathers behave the exact same. It's not obscure, strange behavior. It's something that your brain recognizes and is comfortable with, because that's what you had to survive as a child. That's what your mother had to survive. And that's with the toxicity of your mother, it created the person that you are.
Yeah, no. So now let's talk about co-parenting,
Yes.
and not just the logistics, but the emotional term.
Mm.
From your perspective, what does co-parenting after emotional trauma usually look like?
It is hard. I don't know another word. It is a mountain. It is, it's only for mature people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why. Because after everything that has happened, that person does not feel remorseful, because we must also consider the personalities of the people that we married. If you were raised by a narcissist, you will have picked yourself a narcissist for a husband or a wife.
Mm-hmm.
So now, this narcissist, when they discard you, because that's what happens when you get to the point where they abuse you so much, to the point where they don't care whether you stay or go, after they discard you, you are sitting with the deep wounds and you are waiting for an I'm sorry that you're never going to get, because they don't know remorse, they have no empathy. And there's a thing here. You have these children that you still have to raise with this person. So divorcing them does not get you out of their life.
Yes.
If you are going to have a healthy parenting system, you have to heal.
That's
And
true.
it's possible that it might not be the two of you, because in healing,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be able to learn how to disengage emotionally from that person.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are going to be able to prioritize your children. Because just because they divorced you as a spouse, they didn't divorce as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
They will forever be part of those children's lives. So if you do not heal, if you do not get to the point in your healing whereby the pain does not control you, but you control the pain.
Yes.
I have an example of that happened to me recently in the last couple of days, where I had to remind myself, oh, this happened to you. But it does not control you anymore, because you are this person now.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to regulate yourself emotionally to get your body out of that screaming mode of survival where it wants to fight? That is what going through a process of working on yourself, that is self-mastery, where your emotions don't control you. Your emotions are okay. They tell you, your feelings tell you what is going on with your body.
Yes.
And
It's
you have
true.
to listen to them so that you can apply the right strategy to put your body at rest, so you go out of survival mode, right? And function with your big brain and explain to your body that we are no longer in danger. Yes, we feel it. You feel the pain. You've just been reminded. You've just been triggered, but you are no longer there. So do you understand why it's important that you, as the primary parent, you heal?
Mm.
Ideally, both parents should, but it's normally the primary parent, the person that's left with the children, the person that was hurt or traumatized. You are left with it. So if you are going to be working with that person that has no empathy, that doesn't even understand what they did wrong, not that they don't know what they did wrong, but they just choose to act as if they don't know.
Oh, yes.
So if you are going to be able to work with that person, you have to get to yourself healed to such a point that they don't trigger you anymore.
Yeah.
That you just see them as a human being that is flawed. That's okay. You made a mistake, and you forgive yourself for that mistake that you made, because that mistake that you made was you not taking the time to heal, go on this journey of healing before you got married. Because had you been a healthier version of yourself, you would have run a mile before you saw that person, before
Yes.
you accepted them in
Said
your life.
accept.
Forgive
Ah,
yourself for that. That's the
ah.
biggest thing.
Sometimes they say you don't even know how to forgive yourself.
For me, forgiveness of myself is understanding that when I came into this world, I had no roadmap, I had no instruction book, I had no guideline for what is supposed to happen to me here. And people tell you that you must just look for your happiness. The purpose is to be happy. That's the point. For me, the purpose, what I learned from this experience that I've been through, is that the purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to live. And
Yes.
as you live life, all sorts of experiences are going to come your way. It is how you overcome the experiences that are supposed to teach you lessons that determines your state of being later. So the happiness and the joy comes from you conquering things that are meant to break you.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
purpose of life is for you to conquer the experiences that challenge us in this life. It's not to look for happiness, because happiness is very subjective. Happiness can be that I'm being abused at home, so I get a lover to satisfy me so that I forget what's happening at home. And I'm happy for that moment.
Mm-hmm. Survival
You understand what I'm saying?
mode. Yes.
Happiness is very subjective. The purpose is for you to be your greatest and most evolved person out of the
Yes.
life experiences that you've had. That
Mm-hmm.
is the purpose of life.
Yes.
So if you understand that as the parent, then you are able to remove your emotions, because your emotions are your own. And it's not to say that that person is not going to affect you, but you are going to know how to respond to situations and how to do self-care after you've had to engage with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what co-parenting after trauma looks like. You deal with the person because you still have to make decisions with them, and make sure that you've got boundaries. For
Yes.
example, my boundary is I only discuss things pertaining to children, schools that we want them to go to, are fees paid, are they going on this trip, what is happening with the holidays, logistics,
Yes.
nothing emotional. We don't talk about what you're doing, which woman you are with, what is what, and
It's
all of that. We don't talk
about the
about my
kids.
life. We
Yes.
talk about the children, and we keep it to that. And if I can, I keep it to written text.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time where I was doing parallel parenting, because part of my process was to gray rock at a point, because you have to totally disengage from a narcissist in order for you to emotionally regulate. You have to be away from them. So there was a time when we actually were parallel parenting. So whatever I did in my house with my children
Mm-hmm.
was my business. I didn't discuss it with him. If they went to him for a weekend or whatever he was doing there was his thing. I didn't discuss it with him. So that's where you are both parenting, but you are not communicating at all. It's very minimal. Like, he must know that he must pick up the kids at the gate. And I allowed myself that space for about 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
until I got to a point where I was like, okay, now I feel I won't blow up when I see his face.
Yes. Oh,
Then I
you
had
know,
to.
you've answered even the other questions I wanted to ask you about boundaries. Yeah, I know. We
And we've
could
been
learn
talking for so
so much.
long. I'm
We
looking
could
at you. You've
learn
got
so
12 minutes
much
left.
from you, Georgina. We could learn so much from
Oh,
you,
thank
honestly.
you. I appreciate
Ah,
it.
you are a
I appreciate it.
powerhouse, no. We
Thank
could
you.
serious. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. For parents watching, ne? Parents for parents watching
Mm,
this who are in between space, ne?
mm.
Trying to heal and parent. What is one thing you can start doing today?
Is to prioritize your children's emotional well-being, which means that you need to start looking at yourself. You need to build support systems that are going to help you in your journey. Because you wouldn't even know what prioritizing emotional well-being if you don't know what emotional safety means for yourself. So you need to get to a place where you are able to look at emotional damage in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
and start working on the areas within you that need help, so that you can show up emotionally for your children. I
Yeah, no.
think that's the thing, that you come first at this point.
Yes.
And you coming first is prioritizing your children, because you want them to be emotionally safe.
Mm-hmm.
They spend most of their time with you. They must not feel, you know, when we get anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
when I was diagnosed with anxiety and looked at my history, I was an anxious child my entire life. I was a scared child my entire life. Our children cannot afford to be scared of us because they are going to spend their adulthood healing from us. Because that's what I've been doing. I spent my entire adulthood either remodeling my parents or healing from them.
The remodeling partner, it happens a lot to us. I don't want to lie. That
Because
happens.
you can't suddenly become something that you've never been or never seen without making a conscious decision to do so.
Yeah, no. And for someone out there thinking, I need this kind of help, tell them where to start. Tell us a bit more about the support offer at the Restoration Lab. What services are available for parents or individuals seeking healing?
First of all, I have a free masterclass that's happening this Saturday. I think that can be a nice entry for somebody because you are not committed into anything.
Yes.
It will be online. It's on this current account. On the click the seller link on there,
Yes.
and you'll be able to book yourself a seat. It's from 10 to 11, not very long, and it talks about she didn't know better, a masterclass on choosing yourself. And this is what I'm covering on the masterclass. Let me just open quickly for you to get an idea of what I'll be covering on there. And it's really about why do women stay in situations that don't favor them? Like a marriage situation that doesn't favor you. You know, the type I'm talking about right now. Why
Yes.
do we stay in those situations? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, when did being chosen become the prize? Because that is actually why we compromise ourselves.
Yes.
And and then I talk about how you start unpacking and choosing yourself, because all of this is centered around the fact that we were never taught to love ourselves. And what does loving yourself look like? I asked somebody recently, a client of mine, when she was talking about somebody who she always shows up for, and then she shows up for this person, and immediately the person, once they got what they want from her, they will go on and about how useless she is as a human being, how she does this and does that, and who do you expect is going to help me? What were you expecting anyway? And you took too long to get there. They are that is the response to her show of love. And I said to her, when the next time you have to deal with this person and they're calling you for help, you know exactly what you're going to get from them, right? She said, yes. And I said to her, so when you go and help them, because she said, if I don't go, nobody else is going to help them. And I said to her, if you go and help them, you are demonstrating love to them,
Yes.
right? So ask yourself, the situation that you always put yourself in when you're helping them, how is that showing love to you?
Yes. How is it?
That is your ritual. How does that show love to you? The fact that you always betray your own safety, your own mental and emotional safety, you always betray it for the sake of showing love to somebody else. What does that say about you? And she said, it means I don't love myself.
Yeah, no, that's
So
true.
love is an action. And love is saying no and standing by your no, even when somebody else is not going to like it. You don't have to be liked. If you are
Yes.
looking to be liked, you are never going to love yourself. And
Exactly.
when you become the savior for everybody, then you are depriving people of learning their lessons. You are depriving people of their growth.
Yes. I always say love is a doing word. So if there's no
Exactly.
action, yes, oh
If
no.
you can't be saying you love yourself simply because you went to do your nails, that's not
Mm-mm.
love.
No,
That's
no.
grooming. And we are all supposed to wash and get our nails done. That's
Exactly.
grooming. It's not
So
self
now,
love.
Georgina, tell us, where can our audience follow you, get access to your content or upcoming workshops?
Okay. So the upcoming workshop is linked on my on this current account that we are on, the Restoration Lab, and you also have my email on there. My email is info@therestorationlab.com. Somebody will get back to you ASAP. And with this offer, from next week, after I've done the masterclass, I'm going to have people that can sign up for one-on-one counseling sessions online for 375 Rand. It's on discount right now from 900 Rand.
Okay.
So that is a great opportunity for you to actually get a one-on-one with me then after we've covered, because you want a customized thing that deals with your situation so you know how to go forward. You can have a clear picture of what help looks like.
Yes.
As customized for your situation, because some people, this is not just about people who are out of relationships, because for the longest time I was that person in relationship that had no help in healing while I was in the relationship, so I kept being damaged. So we must understand that as you keep on getting damaged and damaged, your soul tires, your brain tires, your mind tires, to the extent that for some, that is how some people get out in a coffin. If they're not beaten into the coffin, they end their own lives because the soul got so tired that your brain stopped trying to survive. It was actually driving you to the end. Then that's when you know your soul is tired. So within the marriage, you need to acquire ways of reclaiming who you are, you're bringing up your value, getting your support, building the skills of disengaging yourself mentally and emotionally from the person that you're living with that is hurting you, until the day you are strong enough to make the decision you need to make. It doesn't mean you have to leave.
So now, Georgina, lastly, what one message you'd like to leave with every mother, dad, caregiver, navigating healing while raising little ones?
Understand that you are not failing. You are navigating something that is human and that is very complex. So give yourself permission to know that you are a mother, but you don't have it figured out. Just be present. Teach yourself, don't even teach yourself balance, because we can't balance. You spend more time at work than being a parent. The balance is never going to come. In that 2 hours that you are with your children, be present. Phones are off. You are doing homework with them. You are talking about the day. You are talking about their friends. You are helping them navigate relationships with their friends. You are finding out that somebody is not treating them nice at school, that they are being bullied. That is what you are doing for that 2 hours that you have with them. Be present in your parenting and intentional in your questioning. When they say something, you don't address them and tell them what to do. You ask questions so that you can get more information. You ask them, how do you think you want to handle it? Because they are thinking, you are teaching them to think critically. So be a present parent. Lead with love. Lead with love in everything that you do. You know how you want to be treated by somebody who loves you. Do that for your children.
It must be mutual always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is what I would leave parents with. Don't think you have to be perfect. We are not perfect. You are doing this for the first time in your life.
Thank you so much for this, Georgina.
More than welcome.
I honestly learned a lot from you. And I've been going through your TikTok videos.
I saw.
I know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so flattered.
No, thank you for your vulnerability, your wisdom, and the work that you do to restore not just relationships, but people's sense of belief. You've given us so much to reflect on. Yeah, no, you were an amazing host, an amazing guest.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to say congratulations on your show. And I just pray and wish that love and light will lead you, and God's hand will cover you. Because these are conversations that are building, is conversations that we've never had them in the last decades in the Black community. And conversations of healing are very necessary. This is how we break those generational
That's,
curses. They are very important
they are
conversations.
very important. It's just that sometimes we shy away from it.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. We don't want to look inward
Yes,
because it's too painful. And it's valid because it's too painful. That's why we need to support one another through it.
that's true. No, I'm so happy that I had you tonight.
Thank you.
You are actually our first guest.
Oh, wow.
Serious.
I'm so honored. Thank you so much.
No,
I'm
thank you
honored.
very much,
All
Georgina.
right.
We'll,
Take care.
we'll do you too.
Bye bye.
Bye.